An error where a double one ended up in the notice, so we were going to have an 11 p.m. meeting, and we switched it back to a 1 o'clock meeting to correct that one. So part of the background for this application is the existing use is currently vacant. It was the thrift store prior and a church prior to the thrift store taking occupancy in the building. The proposed use is a mixed use of commercial and residential, being 40% commercial in the front and 60% commercial at the rear of the building. The official plan has it within an urban settlement area and commercial district. The zoning bylaw is general commercial right now, C1. The proposed zoning would be a special exemption zone to consider the new split in the use of the property, and it would go to a general commercial exception 5 zone. And the property is approximately 1/4 of an acre. The background, the surrounding land uses from the official plan designation. As I noted earlier, it's within the urban settlement area. That's the red hatched area on the screen. And commercial is the zone, the orange diagonal hatch shown on the screen. Under the purpose and effect, the purpose is to rezone to permit residential use on the ground floor, which is currently not permitted, and in the basement of the vacant building on the commercially zoned property. And the effect, if approved, the applicant would be able to apply for a building permit to renovate the vacant building to include residential uses on the rear portion of the ground floor and also in the basement, so that's included in the exception. And to keep the front portion of the building, 40% of the front as commercial. So the facade of the building would remain as a commercial use. Under the requirements of the Planning Act, we have to consider the provincial policy statements that were issued in 2020. And within those policy statements, there's policies that direct council. And part of it is it permits a mix of residential types within settlement areas under section 1131. It promotes a range of housing options under section 14. It also talks about intensification and intensifies already existing building stock to accommodate mixed uses. So a type of switch like this is permitted for council to consider rezoning under the provincial policies. Council also has to consider the official plan from the United Counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry. In it, it has requirements where the owners have to demonstrate that the lot size is adequate to accommodate the multi-unit residential and commercial uses within the settlement area. And it has been considered. You'll see a slide coming up with the parking at the rear. It also supports the goal of infill and intensification. The proposed rezoning supports a range of rental sizes, both medium and small. The site plan control will apply to the commercial portion, which will consider parking. So the next slide also shows the proposed site plan for the property, where they're going to put parking at the rear. And the parking spaces meet the minimum size. We have a slightly larger size for our parking spaces, the width that is. And they are able to accommodate 9 spaces in the rear portion of the yard. They plan to remove the existing wheelchair accessible ramp that goes there and move it over. And that area is where they'll be able to get to the backyard to allow parking in the backyard. And here's a layout of the proposed floor plan that's provided by the applicant. So commercial would remain in the front, and they also have a washroom facility. It's just outside the blue highlighted area in behind the commercial. And then you've got 2 residential units that would be able to be accommodated at the back of the building or the back of the existing church and off to the side where they had the kind of a fellowship hall. And the basement also would be converted into an apartment with a door exit at ground level at the rear of the building. It actually it slopes down where you can exit out the back of the building. So the proposed zoning amendment is as follows. It would recognize the residential use at the rear of the building being 60% and 40% commercial on the ground floor, and also allow the residential use in the basement. It also talks about parking to make sure the off-site off-street parking is available at the back of the building, and that's provided for in the site plan. So the recommendation is that the proposed amendment constitutes good planning. It's consistent with the provincial policy statement as well as the official plan. Therefore, council can consider approving the amendment, the zoning application. And secondly, the council considers any comments from the public during this meeting before rendering a decision on the proposed amendment. One consideration that wasn't mentioned is previously we've looked at rezonings in Chesterville of this nature where council's insisted on 50-50% commercial in the front and 50% residential in the rear. This one's slightly smaller in the front to 40%. This was not a commercial building before, it was a church, so you have complications with a cathedral ceiling, a very high ceiling, and trying to convert office space in the front and allowing 50-50. It doesn't quite work in this building with the layout to actually get two buildings or two residential uses in the rear. So that's why this proposal is for 40% rather than the 50-50. We've previously considered it. It's mainly based on this kind of building you're dealing with. It wasn't a commercial store front per se, it was a church, so it makes it a little more difficult for the renovation work to take place. Part of the other process is we circulate this to ministries and public bodies. It's a requirement under the Planning Act, and we receive no comments from ministries or public bodies and no comments from the public with regard to the application. And with that, I'll turn it back to the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Pohl. And so now, after the presentation, there's an opportunity for questions, comments from members of the public. And if you do wish to deliver a question or a comment, please come up, your name, your address, so the clerk can record that. Is the applicant here, Mr. Pohl? If there are none, we'll continue on. And so that then questions, comments from members of council. Councillor Uhrig.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation, Calvin. I'm just wondering, are the property lines as we have it as exact as possible? Because I'm just trying to imagine how you're going to get a laneway to rear parking on that south side of the building with the neighboring residents being fairly close as is, despite moving that ramp. I can't picture this in my mind.
Yeah, it's a tight fit. It is actually 20 feet between the building and the property line. There's just over 20 feet. And 20 feet is your minimum width to get parking in the back. It's 10 feet per lane going front and back. So it will actually fit. It'll be tight though. So
Will there be a lot of encroachment, I guess, on the neighboring property owner? Or it will, just within what we currently have,
yeah,
okay.
it's within what we have.
I'm just surprised that the neighboring property owner hasn't had anything to say about this. That surprises me, but they were given an opportunity. I'm surprised by that. And I guess the applicant is perhaps more optimistic than I am that a basement apartment in an old cellar in an old church is going to work, but who are we to stand in the way if they have a dream?
Thank you, Councillor Uhrig. Councillor Annable.
I just want to comment that it doesn't take long for a building of that age to run down. It's nice to see somebody take it over and make some use out of it, commercial and residential. And that basement, Matt, is brighter and bigger than you think.
I forgot how long you've been around here, Councillor Annable. Thank you.
Well, I'm still able to put two and two together, so.
Do you wish to weigh in on this, Deputy Mayor?
No, I'm good with the comments. I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's nothing else, then this concludes the public meeting, and we'll move on to our delegations. So for those who are in attendance for that part of the meeting, thank you very much. The rest of the meeting will go quickly, though, if you want to stick around. So we have a delegation with us today, and it's from the SDG Library. It's our Director of Library Services, Rebecca Luck. Welcome. Welcome to North Dundas. Just make sure your switch is on. Perfect.
Thank you. Just to confirm, I don't have a clicker, but are you going to be scrolling through? Okay, perfect. So good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, councillors, staff, and members of the public. My name is Rebecca Luck, and I'm the new Director of Library Services at SDG Counties. And the purpose of me coming here is just to speak on behalf of the library and everything that it has to offer. So SDG Library is made up of 15 branches all across the counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry. We employ 44 staff made up of LSAs and CSAs, and they're really the face of the library. They're the ones who sit behind the desk at the library branches. We also have a courier and our administrative staff who work from the Cornwall County's building. The Chesterville Library branch is located along the South Nation River at 1 Mill Street. It's what we consider a neighborhood branch, and it's open to the public 17 hours a week, 4 days per week. We pride ourselves as being a community hub, offering a multitude of programs throughout the year. At Chesterville branch, we recently had the Recycled Reads program, where crafters were able to make Christmas displays out of old recycled books. We had the PVC photo pipe planters, which was a recent program where patrons used recycled PVC pipe to create planters, and they personalized this with a picture. The PVC pipe was generously donated by Byers Farm Equipment, and the plants themselves were donated by library staff members. Also very popular are the STEM maker kits, so specifically the Cublets and Little Bits. And the Cublets are fun, sorry if you can scroll back up. They're a fun little program where they're little blocks and they snap together with magnets and you create a robot. And so it's a great STEM program for the little ones to kind of introduce coding and robotics. And you essentially put together a battery, a sensor, and a function, and it creates this robot to do something. So just some key statistics for the Chesterville Library branch. We saw 10,419 print material distributed in 2023, nearly 1,400 ebooks and e-audiobooks, 176 hours of public computer usage, 380 borrowers, nearly 4,000 visitors, and 90 new members registered. The South Mountain Library branch is located at 10543 Main Street at the South Mountain Library Resource Center. It's also considered a neighborhood branch, which means it's open 16 hours a week, 4 days per week. The South Mountain Library branch is very popular for homeschool hotspot programs, and it's a new recurring program that was just introduced at the beginning of the year. Pretty much bringing together local homeschooling groups. In January, we saw 29 attendees, and in February, we saw 40 attendees. And as part of the program, patrons used the Sphero Indies kit to learn coding in January, and the Button Maker and Lego kits in February. And for anyone who is unfamiliar with the Sphero Indie kits, it's also a very interesting activity where it promotes coding, and the activity is made up of one vehicle and colored tiles, and the colored tiles are all programmed to correspond to a different turning movement. So the purpose is for kids to create a course in which the vehicle will navigate these colored tiles and provide direction and input to complete the course based on turning movements. For the South Mountain Library branch, we had over 9,000 print materials distributed in 2023, nearly 900 ebooks and e-audiobooks, 89 hours of public computer usage, 293 borrowers, 3,000 visitors, and 77 new members. Lastly, we have the Winchester Library branch, and it's located above the North Dundas OPP department at 547 Lawrence Street. And we consider a resource branch, which means it's open 44 hours a week, 6 days per week. At the Winchester branch, we have the Stay and Play program, which promotes literacy and fine motor activities for the little ones. And most recently, we also had a Valentine's Day tea program for seniors, and it featured a presentation by Constable Serge Duguay of the OPP, and it was specifically talking on fraud towards seniors. So again, just some key statistics from Winchester Library branch. We saw over 22,000 print material distributed, 1,700 ebooks and e-audiobooks, 636 hours of public computer usage, 779 borrowers, over 10,000 visitors, and 237 new members. So all of our library branches offer a full range of services, and they're what you stereotypically think of a library, where you can borrow books, magazines, DVDs. But what this also means is that a patron can go online to our website, log into the catalog, and they can request a book, say from Lancaster or Ingleside, and that book can be brought to your local branch for being picked up. The library branch has free Wi-Fi, printing, scanning, copying, faxing, has a whole bunch of databases for professional development, such as LinkedIn Learning. Patrons can borrow museum passes and browse local history materials. We have public computer stations, and patrons can also use and borrow e-books and e-audiobooks. I also want to highlight the Maker Lab, which is located in Finch, and although it's outside of North Dundas, I did want to highlight its service. So that patrons from North Dundas can also visit Finch, but that the Maker Lab will also come to them. So at the Maker Lab, we have a laser cutter, which can etch and cut into materials such as wood and cardboard. We have a 3D printer and a resin printer. So the 3D printer can essentially design and use digital files to create solid objects. The resin printer is more for those who are interested in your tabletop board games and creating the little miniatures. The sublimation printer and mug press is new to us, but it's very interesting equipment where you use the printer and it prints on special ink, special paper, and you're able to take that print and transfer it onto clothes such as shirts, totes, mugs, and just personalize different crafting ideas. We have the Cricut, which travels across all the different branches, and that essentially cuts into a variety of different materials such as paper, vinyl, even balsa wood, and that creates different crafting ideas. So for the scrapbookers, the card makers, or I guess a whole other variety of crafts. And lastly, we have the Maker Lab programs. So patrons can either go to Finch for these programs, or the programs get developed in Finch and then they get distributed and offered to all the residents at various times throughout the year. The library also hosts system-wide programming. So the TD Summer Reading Club is Canada's biggest summer reading program, and it's designed to inspire youth to explore the fun of reading in the summer months. The program is delivered by 2 summer facilitators every year. We apply for grants to subsidize for these positions. 2023 marked the return of a fully in-person program, and in comparison, we saw a 20% increase from 2022, which had weekly programs reaching over 1,200 participants. SDG Reads is another system-wide program where we have the slogan, one book, one community. And it's a program that encourages all residents across SDG to come together to read the same title and then come together for a culminating event with the author. So this year's author was Maureen Jennings, who is the popular author for Murdoch Mysteries. And it was hosted at Avonmore. And we had excellent attendance. We had over 100 people there. The VIP was over 50% sold out, and we had just an overwhelming amount of positive feedback, and it just was a wonderful program to bring the communities together. So as part of our community outreach initiative, SDG Library attends community events throughout the counties in the form of pop-up events. So in 2023, we attended nearly 20 events, and in North Dundas specifically, we had Art on the Waterfront, which saw 180 visitors at our booth. We had Meet Me on Main for Moorwood, which saw 80 visitors, Meet Me on Main Hallville, which saw 90 visitors, and we also participated in the North Dundas Parade of Lights in Winchester. So what's coming up next for North Dundas? Well, in Chesterfield, we're going to be having the pop-up Art on the Waterfront. We're also hosting a new program for those who love to play crib or those who are new to crib on how to play. Sorry, I should say cribbage, but for those who know it, crib. In South Mountain, patrons will explore the art of Pasenka and decorate a traditional Ukrainian-style Easter egg, where designs will be drawn on with beeswax and then later layered with dyes to create a beautiful geometric design. And I also want to say that this program is in partnership with the Friends of the South Mountain Library Group. At Winchester, we have a very special opportunity to have a teen advisory group, which is a group of teen volunteers who meet monthly, and they provide and share their input and their perspective and interest towards library programs. So they'll be presenting what we call the Switch Saturday program, which will include children and teens competing in games of Nintendo Labo, Mario Kart, Super Smash Brothers, and 1-2 Switch. We'll be having more school visits with Winchester Public Library School. Winchester Public School. Currently, we have 3 kindergarten classes visit over the span of 2 days, once per month. And we also have 2 grade 5-6 classes come and visit every 3 weeks. Further, we'll be having more pop-up library outreach events, and we'll be hosting SDG Reads 2024 in October. So I just wanted to say thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak on behalf of SDG Library. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Ms. Luck, for the presentation, and I'm sure there are questions, comments, and I do have some that I'd like to add. I'll let everyone speak first. I'll go to the Deputy Mayor, then Councillor Urick.
Thank you. So first off, I'd like to say that my grandfather taught me how to play cribbage when I was a child. And we played many, many games, and he was really good at it. I'm amazed at all the services that the libraries have available to us. And I just have one question. The Maker Lab is something new to me, and that's really neat. And I just wondered, is there a cost to the public if they want to use what's available at the Maker Lab in Finch?
Excellent question. So through you, Mr. Mayor, we have a fee recovery schedule. So it's free if you bring in your own materials. So if you, for example, want to design a T-shirt for your upcoming family camping trip, and you want, your 10 grandchildren to have a, personalized T-shirt. If you bring in the T-shirts and the vinyl, it's free to use, absolutely. If you don't have the material on hand, we do supply, for example, the vinyl or the cardstock or the different materials that you would need, and it's just at cost. So there's no sort of, benefit to us. It's just going towards purchasing more material.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Urick.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca, for the presentation. I just want more of a comment than anything is my family is regular attenders of the Winchester Library, and it is amazing the amount of stuff in there and the amount of time you can occupy on a Saturday morning when you just really need to sit and drink hot coffee and your kids go and do something. So it's amazing. And just to make a point, the Qubits and that Little Bits, the STEM Maker Kits, even I thought those were amazing. So those are really great. My daughter's favorite day of school is when they go to the big library across the street. So thank you for all the great work and the programming. It is really advantageous for anybody that isn't aware of what the library actually offers beyond books to go and find out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hannibal.
Just again, a comment. I had no idea there was this much going on at a library. Sure different than when I was a kid. So I think it's great. You show initiative and you're keeping up with the times, and it's good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm not sure. I think everyone here knows that I'm on the library board, and I do support the library. I think it's an amazing thing. We've had discussions on how we can improve and communicate in a better fashion, and we've taken those steps at the library, and the library board has supported those steps. Our SDG library, we have that website, and to your thoughts, Councillor Hannibal, some of those there are many events held, and if you go to the SDG library website, it's easily found the information that goes on within our community, within the SDG library community on top of that. And you can keep yourself busy just by attending events at our different branches. And I understand that it's a fairly new website, or fairly newly revamped by our communications staff member. And I do encourage everyone to go to the SDG Library website and find out what is going on in your community. And Rebecca mentioned the session with the OPP about scams and phone scams and fraud. That was well attended. More than 20 people had shown up, I'm sure. And I had heard about it. but then I went to the website and I confirmed with my fellow library board member, Joanne McCaslin, and she brought a crew, and I attended, and it was a great event. It was an important event for lots of people in our community to spread the word and make people aware, and to have a member of the OPP show up and support that, raising the awareness. The SDG Reads, I've had the opportunity to attend two of those events, one with Maureen Jennings and another one with Kelly Armstrong, and both authors from Ontario, let's say, and the stories are set in, the one is set in Toronto, as you know, the Murdoch Mysteries, set in Toronto, and the other one was set in Northern Ontario, the other series by Kelly Armstrong. Very interesting. It is, those that don't think it would be interesting would be quite surprised if they were to attend and see the energy in the room and the questions asked of these events. And I guess I can keep on going on. Our the CAO, Ben and I, were at North Dundas High School today, and we were in awe of some of the robotics that were going on with the younger students at North Dundas District High School. And then, Rebecca, you speak about the cublets and the little bits and the robotics, and we thought it was quite amazing that to see grade 9s involved in programming robots and making things do stuff remotely. And then you speak about how the youngsters are having an opportunity to do it as well. It's quite encouraging what goes on within North Dundas, but within the SDG library system, where we're supporting that science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, the STEM, where we're supporting that and encouraging that and making sure it's done in a fashion that's enjoyable for everyone. And I just want to finish off by talking about how when I was a kid growing up in Chesterville, I had two chores, really. There wasn't a lot for me to do as in chores, but one of them was to go downtown and get the mail, and the other one was to go to the library and get the books that my parents had brought in. It was my job to trek across town. And so the Chesterville Library branch I've been heading to since, it might have been 1970. So it's near and dear to me. The Winchester branch is the branch that my daughter had used when she was a youngster quite often, and it's encouraging to see that. But it's the great strides and effort to promote the libraries and to display that we're staying current. We're offering things that we need to offer. Not many other organizations offer such a gauntlet of things as the library does. You can tell I like the library. So, to wrap it all up, Rebecca, thank you very much for attending. I hope that the good news is spread around. I hope the media pick it up and talk about some of the opportunities. I hope that we can continue promoting the SDG Library website and the things that take place throughout SDG. And for your guiding hand, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're going to move into action requests, and Mr. DeHaan. Moved by Councillor Uhrig, seconded by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, that Council approves the attached engineering technician job description and authorizes the CAO to fill the position on a contract basis from May 1, 2024 until December 31, 2024. Mr. DeHaan.
Thank you. So as council is aware, we have an impending maternity leave taking place relatively soon. And for us, it does leave a big hole within the organization. What we are proposing to do, and what I'm proposing with council and with this action request, is looking to hire a creating an engineering technician job position within the organization just for a short period of time, and the job description is attached to the action request. And ultimately, what we'd like to do is, this is targeting a graduate coming out of engineering right now. And ideally, the intention with it is to actually support that department in a lot of the field work and the inspection that's taking place, because there's a number of different infrastructure jobs that are happening right now with the lagoon, the reservoir, the well, et cetera, et cetera. Additionally, we have we're still on track to have Hallville Park under construction this year. So there's another kind of interesting and exciting project that we see would benefit from having some technical expertise, being the intermediary between the contractor and the office as well. So a lot of great opportunity, a great learning experience for somebody just coming out of school. In terms of the financial implications to the organizations, of course, we do have some cost savings that are occurring with the leave. So we're actually in a net positive position having this type of position filled with engineering student. And in terms of salary, where we've placed it on the grid is I've done a little research in terms of comparable jobs in other municipalities as well as the private sector, and it's in line with entry-level engineering positions in the private sector, as well as similar types of positions of, technical inspection, that type of work at other municipalities, so like contract inspection work. So that's the crux of this request to council.
Thank you. Questions, comments from members of council? Councillor Urick.
Yeah, no, when I read through the report and, you kind of get a reminder, not that I forgot, but just a bigger snapshot of all the work that's ongoing, and knowing that, we're not really in a position to pause anything, as a matter of circumstance. So this is a wonderful opportunity for a recent grad to get some very true hands-on experience with the number of things ongoing. So no, I'm happy to see this, and I'm happy to know that ideally there won't be any gaps in terms of with the leave happening. And we wish, of course, our director all the best with the leave that's upcoming. But knowing that things will be well in hand when she does go, and maybe she can only stress about one big new thing in her life and not many projects in her life, right? So no, that's I'm fully in support of this.
Thank you, Councillor. Further questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Moved by Councillor Urick, seconded by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, that council authorize staff to close the office to regular business on April 15, 2024 to facilitate an all-staff office cleanup day. Mr. Dahan.
Thank you. And as council is aware, during our budget deliberations, we had some discussions on the proposed office renovations that would take place here in the office. Really, we'll call it like a freshen up more than some kind of huge comprehensive change of office. As we started, we're in the planning phases of that work right now, and as in a recent directors meeting, we were talking about how that would take place and the phasing, staging of some of the work that we'd need to do. Certainly, I think if council walks around the office and what you can see, there's a real need for a cleanup. And I know our clerk's been working very closely with the archives to make sure that we have some available capacity there to move some of our older files out to that location, which has, we're going to be in good state to do that. And ultimately, I guess what I'm proposing to council here is, in looking at what we need to do before we do the office renovations, it didn't make sense from a director level to move stuff only to move it back again and then kind of still sit there. So our goal with this idea is actually the week of April 15th is going to be a cleanup week, but really what we'd like to do is spend one day of that week where the entire focus is on, we don't have to worry about anything that's non-emergency, of course, and really just focus our efforts on, let's make sure what needs to go to the archive is boxed up, ready to go to the archive. Let's clean all the old binders and all these things that are in our offices and get rid of them and recycle and donate things. We have a lot of extra furniture that we've got sticking around in the corners. And it's very, very difficult to do a comprehensive and kind of focused cleanup if you're pulled in multiple directions, as we all are in a given day. So what I'm proposing here in this action request and looking for council support on is that we actually just close the office for one day. All staff will come in, they can come in their work clothes, and the idea being, let's just focus on cleaning up this office, and then through the rest of the week, we'll have scheduled times where staff are additionally finishing up the cleanup effort, but we're back open for business, and we're not impacting the ability for residents to come in and kind of work with us or all those types of things. So we'd identified at a director level April 15th makes a lot of sense. It's just, we're just getting into the busy spring season, and we know once spring gets into full swing, a lot of people coming in for permits and all those other types of things. So that's the purpose behind this, and certainly open for council to comment, and we'll look for council's direction on this one.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Councillor Urick.
I mean, knowing that we have identified in the budget this year that there are some necessary renovations, improvements, upgrades, what have you, freshening up, I guess, more like it, that are required and needed. I'm okay with it for this year. I think, but going forward, I would rather see it be more of a proactive effort to clean up versus a reactive effort. And I think for this year, I'm okay with like an office closure to really hit the bulk of it. But in the years ahead, I don't want to see that request made again. I think it's more of a, let's try to stay on top of it and be efficient in the cleanup. But for this year, absolutely, let's give one dedicated day and get through the bulk of it. Because I mean, we've all been in through, I mean, you're in it every day. The rest of the staff's in it every day. I sweep through and do what I need to, but there are noticeable areas where like, that's just been shoved there and let's deal with it now, right? So yeah, no, for this year, I'm good with it. But going forward, I think, yeah, more of a, keep it more top of mind, I guess, to keep the office as clean as we can.
If I may, and absolutely, that would be my intention as well. And I can just, I'm actually stealing from experience I have in my, I guess my normal job, is that we haven't had an office closure per se there. I would suggest that we've done enough renovations where we have reset the office and it wasn't quite as necessary perhaps. But I see after this, absolutely going forward, I think we probably need to have in mind like a day where we need to spend cleaning up and not necessarily closing the office. I think it's very much an exception to suggest that we're doing this year, and I don't see the need for it going, in future years.
Anything further from members of council? I share your thoughts, Councillor Urick, on once, and I believe it's like once we get ahead of it, we're ahead of it, and we just need to stay ahead of it. But I think of the time spent by the clerk and the deputy clerk, and you've been to the archives, and it's not just around the corner; it's 25 minutes away. So you eat up better part of an hour going back and forth, and a better part of an hour is almost is a large chunk of half a day, and. So, and I look, and there's been more than one day that's been going on. And I've been involved in that, trying to just make sense of, or not so much make sense, but just get a handle on the vast amount of documents that are here, and on top of the other stuff. So these efforts are definitely necessary. To your point, we can't move stuff twice unnecessarily. If we're going to move it, we just need to move it and be done with it. So. It is odd, I'm sure, to many people outside of this, but when we look at our own homes, we realize once in a while that we need to stop and spend a day. And the spring cleanup is a common term, so it's not it's not uncommon that we have these thoughts that we need to get ahead of the pile that's there. So yeah, it's absolutely necessary. All those in favor? Opposed, seeing none, that's carried. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, second by Councillor Urick, that council approve the salary wage administration policy 58-2013 as revised this 21st day of March 2024 to clarify the performance appraisal period for staff. Mr. DeHaan.
Thank you. I see this really as just an administrative cleanup of this policy. Nothing I would suggest substantive is being changed here. What we're doing is just clarifying the period of time when the review is for. In the previous version of the policy, it did say for the previous calendar year. We, at a managerial level, we're delivering these performance reviews before July 1st, so a lot of them are happening in May and June when we're meeting with staff, talking with staff. And I should back up a little bit. This is all stemming from the organizational review that had taken place through 2023. One of the suggested improvements was improving the performance appraisal forms and process. So we've got, at a director level, we've worked through and we've got a revised form, which I think is going to be really beneficial for both management and staff as we go through that process this year. But one thing we did identify as something we wanted to address is that instead of making it for the previous calendar year, so you're talking in May about stuff that happened from January 1st to December 31st of the previous year, let's keep it a little more current. So let's actually shift it. So we're talking about stuff that's not only that's happened in the previous year, but what's happening right now, because that I think when you kind of reflect on it, it makes a lot of sense. So that's the intention of the change here, is just making sure the policy aligns with how we want to work through that performance review process. Ultimately, what it means for this year is that we're talking about a year and a half whenever we meet with staff, and then going forward, it's going to be that 12-month period, but it's essentially July 1st to July 1st rather than calendar year.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Thank you, Mr. Hahn. Ms. Johnson. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, second by Councilor Uhrig, that bylaw number 2024-22, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an amending agreement for the provision of Integrity Commissioner services, be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed this 21st day of March 2024. Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. It's part of the Municipal Act that we have to have an Integrity Commissioner appointed. Here in North Dundas, along with the other municipalities in SDNG, we use Tony Fleming. He does a lot with a number of municipalities in the province. So this is just to extend the agreement that he had for an additional 5 years under the same terms and conditions.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Mr. Garreau. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, second by Councilor Uhrig, that bylaw number 2024-24, being a bylaw to adopt the 2024 municipal budgeted revenues and expenditures, be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed this 21st day of March 2024. Mr. Garreau.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This is a bit of housekeeping, really, to take care of. After the budget was adopted in principle at our last council meeting of February 29th, we required council's formal adoption of the 2024 budget. And so you have before you now bylaw number 2024-24, which is a bylaw to adopt the 2024 municipal budget revenues and expenditures. Just by way of background, as a finalization to the budgeting process for 24, we require a resolution of council to approve the attached bylaw. As presented at the February 29th meeting, the 24 budget proposed a levy of just over $9 million. If council wishes to make any changes to those numbers, those changes can be made. A new number can be inserted into the bylaw, or we can bring the bylaw back at a future meeting. So under options and discussion, the recommendation is to approve. Financial analysis, there's no immediate financial impact because the passing of the annual budget is a non-cash flow transaction. It's a normal annual practice. The passage of the budget will act as a roadmap to guide us through our financial decision-making and spending for the 2024 fiscal year. Once we get it passed, we will then be in a position to be able to produce the budget documents, have them bound and circulated to council and department managers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garreau. Questions, comments from members of council? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried.
Thank you.
We'll move into recreation and culture. Ms. Meerberg. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, seconded by Councilor Uhrig, that council authorize the Director of Recreation and Culture to sign a 5-year service agreement with Universe Software Canada for the term of April 1, 2024 to March 31, 2029 for the provision of recreation registration software services. Ms. Meerberg.
Good afternoon, Council. So our service agreement with our recreation registration software provider is up for renewal, and I'm seeking Council's approval to enter into a new 5-year agreement with the company.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, second by Councilor Urick, that council authorize and approve Garden Party Market to become a committee of council effective March 21, 2024. And further that, the mayor, Tony Fraser, serves as the council representative for the committee. Ms. Meerberg.
So the Garden Party Market is a vendor market that started in 2020. This year it will be hosting monthly events from May until November and is anticipated to attract more than 40 vendors and up to 500 patrons. The newly formed Garden Party Market Committee has submitted a request to staff that council accept them as a committee of council and that a member of council be appointed as their council representative. Our insurance broker has advised that the cost to insure the 7-part event series is $1,634.32 plus HST, which would be in addition to the $13,310.50 that was approved in the 2024 budget.
Thank you, Ms. Meerberg. Questions, comments? I'm looking forward to jumping in with Ms. Windle and the rest of the committee. It is a great event, the Garden Party Market. I'm glad it's part of the committee of council. It's going to make the committee's members' efforts run, I shouldn't say run smoother, run in a different fashion. And then for those that have heard the increase of the premium to ensure that there's the coverage required by us and to make sure that everyone is protected by insurance is truly, in my mind, a small price to pay for such a wonderful event that takes place so often in our community and draws so many people from outside to us and ensures that those that live here in North Dundas experience the Garden Party Market, because on those nice summer days in the summer, whenever I have a chance to stop in, it is quite a few people. And I'm going to go outside of my usual procedures and protocols. It is quite unusual for me to do this. Just Ms. Windle, do you have any comments that you'd like to make?
No, I just want to say thank you. You know, the last couple of years have seen an increase with patrons to the event, and I'm very proud of what I've created in the last 5 years through a pandemic at that. And I just want to see it continue. I'd like to think that in 30 years down the line, we can be similar to Metcalf Farmers Market, where we have a consistent flow of customers through and a consistent flow of vendors through, and we can give back to the community in many different ways, not only from shopping local, but reinvesting the funds from the vendors back into the community as well. So I'm happy to be part of the community.
Well, thank you for those thoughts and those kind words. And to your credit, it is quite an event and spearheaded by you and your efforts, and that's made it a success. So I'm looking forward that that success continues. Anything further? All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. And Development Services, Mr. Pohl and Mr. Mann. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, seconded by Councilor Urick, that bylaw number 2024-23, being a bylaw to amend the former Village of Winchester zoning bylaw 25-96 is amended for the property legally described as Plan 34, part of Block G, Lot 117, and part of Lot 34, former Village of Winchester, municipally known as 541 St. Lawrence Street, be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed this 21st day of March 2024. Mr. Pohl.
So there's a follow-up on the public meeting held earlier this afternoon with respect to rezoning this property to commercial exception 5 to allow residential use at the rear of the building and in the basement of the building and to have parking at the back.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, second by Councilor Urick, that council approve a signage and awning grant of $1,700.00 and a $962. I better put these on. A $962.50 facade grant under the Township of North Dundas's Community Improvement Plan for the building located at 545 St. Lawrence Street, Winchester, and further that council authorize the mayor and interim CAO to execute the required agreement. Mr. Mann.
Good afternoon, Council. So this is for a new business that'll be opening up shortly. They'll be installing some facade signage on the west side as well as the south side, and lighting as well. Some nice gooseneck lighting over the main sign and some pot light lighting on that south facade to illuminate it all.
Thank you. Questions, comments from members of council? There's going to be lots of changes on that section of St. Lawrence Street very shortly. And thank you for helping with that CIP application. It's appreciated. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Moved by Councillor Annable, second by Councillor Urick, that council approve a facade grant of $5,000 and a commercial improvement loan of $17,000 under the Township of North Dundas's Community Improvement Plan for the building located at 541 St. Lawrence Street, Winchester, and further that council authorize the mayor and interim CAO to execute the required agreements. Mr. Mann.
Yes, so this building is just one building north of the first one we just went over there. So he's going to be applying for a facade grant, and it's quite exciting actually. This is the first application we've received that is taking advantage of the 75% coverage for accessibility improvements, which was built into the revisions to our CIP back in December 2022 when we revised the plan. So that's what the $5,000 is for a ramp that'll go into a new commercial door into the commercial space between the two windows on the front of the building there. And then the loan is for a new shingled roof for the entire building as well.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Councillor Urick.
Yeah, I'll just make an all-encompassing comment. I do sit on the CIP committee, and I just think it's nice to see prospective business owners still taking advantage of this, and it's nice that we still do it this way. These are two historic, in a sense, buildings in our village, and it's nice to see them kind of get new life breathed into it. Nice to see that what I always thought could be done with the Winchester Press building is now being done instead of letting it fall apart the way it was. So it's nice to see. So no, I'm very excited about these changes and upgrades, and I look forward to seeing both of them come to completion.
Thank you for your comments. Anything further? Mr. Mann, just for the benefit of those that we have with us today, whenever we talk about a commercial improvement loan,
yes,
can you describe the loan? Because that's important that people understand how that loan works and how the payments work.
Sure.
Repayments.
So the commercial improvement loan, it's up to a maximum of $17,000, and it's a dollar-for-dollar program. It's not a matching program like the two grants are for signage and facade. So $10,000 worth of work would be a $10,000 loan, and the loan is only applicable to the building owners, the landowners of the property, and it's repaid in the same manner that they pay their taxes. So however they pay monthly or annually, collected in the same manner. It's 0% interest over a 5-year period, and it can be used for pretty much anything on the inside or outside of the property, or even if a business is doing a facade improvement and the $5,000 grant isn't enough, that money, whatever's left over, can get spilled over onto a loan as well.
Thank you for that description. If there's nothing else, all those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Moved by Councillor Urick, second by Councillor Annable, that council approve a signage and awning grant of $1,000 under the Township of North Dundas's Community Improvement Plan for the building located at 12024 Dolly Drive, Winchester, and further that council authorize the mayor and interim CAO to execute the required CIP agreement. Mr. Mann.
So this is for Precision Diesel. They've recently updated their branding and logos. So you'll see an image of what the rendering will be for the new facade on the north side and then one on the west side of the building. And it's nice to see them come back, as a few years ago as well, we gave them a CIP loan for some facade enhancements, some gardening, and some painting of the roof as well. So this is almost like a phase 2 or 3 for their improvement project.
Thank you. Questions, comments? And again, I think back to the early days of the CIP program, and I look up and down the streets in North Dundas in the business areas, and the changes that have taken place over the years. And it's a large part of it is to the CIP program. Sometimes it's not a lot of money that goes, but it is a sign that the township is trying to do their best to partner and support. And but it really has changed the downtown streets around our business areas, and it's quite a good program. If there's nothing else, all those in favor? Opposed? See none. That's carried. Thank you, gentlemen. Ms. Ward and Mr. Renault. Moved by Councillor Annable, second by Councillor Urick, that council receive and accept the North Dundas Drinking Water System Report for the reporting period of January 1st to December 31st, 2023. Ms. Ward.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is the annual drinking water report that council will receive every year during their term. This report is submitted to the ministry on the township's behalf. I did want to highlight that this report contains and highlights the great efforts put in by Aqua staff. So as council's familiar, Aqua operates our system, our water and sewer system here in North Dundas. So they continue to provide operational excellence, and that's proven through this report.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Moved by Councillor Urick, second by Councillor Annable, that bylaw number 2024-26, being a bylaw to permit 414-9103 Canada Inc., Storm Internet Services, to place receiving towers and transmission apparatus on the township's water tower to be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed this 21st day of March 2024. Ms. Ward.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is just basically a re-signing of a lease that Storm Internet has with the Township of North Dundas. They previously had 11 devices, and this new lease is for 13, so they are adding 2 new apparatuses to the towers. And in doing so, they've also increased the lease payment accordingly. So the lease payment has been put into the water budget, and will be reflected. The council will see this afternoon.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. We're going to move into key information.
Thank you, Mayor. So this afternoon, myself and Mr. Renault, Doug, are here to present the 2024 draft water sewer budget. So if maybe the deputy clerk could switch to the presentation. I thought we could walk through a bit of a slideshow. It really speaks to the report that's in front of council in more of a visual manner.
Yeah, no, we can take a 10-minute break. As soon as Matt gets back, we're good to go. It's Stephon Cahoon. Okay, welcome back, everyone, and we have our presentation ready. And so I'll turn it back over to Ms. Ward and Mr. Renault.
So apologies for that delay, but before you now is the presentation for the 2024 water sewer budget. This is the first draft of the 2024 water sewer budget. I apologize. So as council's aware, council's been through one water budget already in their term. So this is your second water budget. So as you set the budget, there are responsibilities that council has with regards to water and sewer, and they're outlined there. I'm not going to go through the specifics. I think we've handled those in the previous meeting. So just an update on the services that we currently provide in North Dundas. So we have 8 groundwater wells, 51 kilometers of water distribution piping. We have 27 kilometers of collection piping, so that's what your sewage goes into, and then 2 sewage lagoon systems. We have 1,863 connections for water and sewer in both Winchester and Chesterville. Winchester and Chesterville are the only communities we currently service with water and sewer. So in 2023, council set the rates for 2024 for water and sewer. So council will recall we had a rate study done in 2023 to look at upcoming projects for capital requirements as well as, growth-related management projects that we were taking on. So as part of that discussion that we had in 2023, council will recall we did adjust rates for 2024 already. So those 2024 rates are not currently up for discussion this afternoon. This is just what we have to use based on what you've already set from 2023. So if you look, the average sewer and water bill, I did highlight the changes and what residents can expect. Some residents have already been paying this increase. Some will experience it in the next month or so when they receive their first bill. So the difference between a rate budget, which is water and sewer, and taxation, just for those in the audience, is that water and sewer infrastructure is funded completely separately from taxation. So there is no portion of your taxes that go towards water sewer, and that is specifically because not everyone who pays taxes in North Dundas actually is connected to water or sewer. So to be fair and equitable, it is funded through a rate base, which is completely separate. Rates for water and sewer, as I said before, were set in 2023 so that we use that money in 2024. So this is more of a discussion of basically how we're going to use the rates that we set in 2023 to accommodate the 2024 budget. So moving forward, we're just going to look quickly at the composition of the water budget. So in 2024, you'll see that the majority of water expenses are for capital. Some of those projects are growth related and some are to better the existing system. So council's aware we have, and I will go through those projects more specifically, but the well and the reservoir are the largest capital projects we have going on in water right now. And then the other, like the 14% of the budget is operations. That's just regular maintenance and basically getting the water from point A to your house. With regards to revenue, you'll see there's a little bit of a separate breakdown. So you have water fees, which are coming in, again, set in 2023. We're collecting them in 2024. We have grants. Council is aware that we're receiving ICIP funding for our new well, so that's coming in as well. And then we have loans, which council will see as a theme of this budget. I'm sure they were aware of it from the last budget, but it continues to be a theme in 2024. The sewer budget's very similar. So again, you're seeing 86% of the entire sewer budget is capital expenditures, and 14%, again, similar to water, is operations. And then for revenue, you're seeing sewer fees is coming in a little bit lower than what water is. And then the loans are 88%, and that's just because the loans for the sewer budget are significantly higher than those in water. And since we're talking about the operational funding and the capital funding that we require, I just wanted to highlight for council, these are the reserve fund balances at the end of 2023. And I'm sure the treasurer will remind me they are unaudited. So, so these are the unaudited amounts for 2023. Non-audited, excuse me, my language there. So I would like to make a point that these are fairly healthy reserves. So basically how this works is that these reserves are to fund asset replacement. So capital requests that are made through Aqua or through the township to do asset replacement. So existing assets, funding their replacement. And then some of these are also for growth related projects. So those would be your you can kind of see in my notes where it says funded through new connections. Those new connections are funding growth related projects. So to get more into the specifics, so for water, highlights for 2024. So again, operationally, the township has hired Aqua to look after operations. So mainly they look after all components of getting the drinking water out of the ground, cleaning it and distributing it to homes, and then collecting it in the sewer, and then treating it before it goes out to South Nation. So in water, there's a new infrastructure coordinator position in the 2024 budget. Council's aware, Doug sitting right next to me. There's interest payments that we have not seen before. So new to the water and sewer budget, council will see there's interest payments on long-term debt. Our water sewer budget has not seen debt for some time. So as we continue to grow, we will see that debt, and I'm sure council's aware of how that fluctuates. There's a transfer to the general water reserve of $615,000. Again, this is for asset replacement projects. So we're keeping that reserve balance healthy because, as council's aware, we will have to redo the Winchester water tower once the new well is online. So we're saving for that, so we don't have to take out a loan for that project. There is a transfer to the capital levy, which the capital levy funds new growth related projects. So those are the two amounts that are estimated in Winchester and Chesterville. And then major maintenance items, which again are completed through Aqua, such as, you know, chlorination system maintenance, generator maintenance, cleaning and inspecting. With regards to minor capital, so these are items that Aqua provides the township that for asset replacement that need to be done in the system. So they're doing outpost panel requirements. So that's our SCADA system that talks and communicates to all the equipment. So there's going to be a new one at the new Chesterville Reservoir, and then one to replace the one at the Winchester Reservoir. New magnetic flow meters at Winchester Wellfield 7. There's 3 wells there. And then a new pump and motor at Winchester Well 6. Some more here are new variable frequency drive in Chesterville, as well as 150 new meter replacements in Winchester and Chesterville. So we continue to do this project year over year, council's aware. So as old water meters deteriorate or they're not working anymore, to ensure that we're capitalizing on as much water that's actually being used, we have a asset replacement plan for those water meters. So these are the major capital highlights in water that are going on this year, and some of them are continuance from previous years. So the first is, I think everyone's well familiar with the Lafleur Road well, which will soon become called the 8 series well. So that is what the ministry is thinking that we're going to be calling this set of wells. So 8A and 8B. So as council will recall, there's 2 wells that are drilled there. And actually in the pictures, you'll see we have successfully drilled 2 wells. So good news. And those are actually being tested currently to determine how many liters per second we can get out of those wells over the course of time. So anticipated completion date of this entire project will be 2025, which means that we're hoping to get over 800 units online for water sewer, which will then stimulate development and growth again in Winchester and Chesterville. So the total estimated cost is $6.5 million, and the associated amounts are in the budget. There is a grant for this, as council will recall, for 1.2, well, it was actually 1.3 million, but this year we're receiving the 1.2. And again, this will continue into the 2025 budget. Some major capital highlights, again, is the Chesterville Reservoir. So this was approved last year as well by council. And if council will recall, this is the green, this is the treatment system that will remove brown water. So the manganese from the water that's causing that brown water discoloration this is the system that's being put in place to help manage that. So its anticipated completion date is August of 2024, and the total cost is outlined there for council. We did use the hydro fund in 2023 to fund 2023 amounts, so this is the first amount that we will be loaning this year for this project. This is the last large capital project. So council will recall at the last council meeting, we discussed the water main looping project for the west end of Winchester. And that was to increase fire flows as well as redundancy to the west end, which I'm sure all of us are familiar with from the Main Street project, would have been beneficial to have at that time. So we have budgeted $297,000 in 2024, contingent on receiving the $804,000 from the Housing Enabling Water Service Fund, which is funded through the province. If the township does not receive the $804,000, we will not be moving forward with this project at council's discretion. So for sewer, again, similar to water, we have, for the first time, interest payments. So there's two existing projects that we have going on, the Winchester Lagoon upgrades. So we're upgrading to a Sager system. And then we have the Winchester Main Street sewage pumping station. So that project completed last year. So this will be the first year we realize interest on the loans that we took out for that. So you'll see there's transfers to reserves, and you'll see these aren't as healthy as the transfer to reserves for water, and that's mainly because of the costs for the loans for the lagoon and the Main Street pumping station. So had we not had those loans, these reserves would look a lot different. But that's to be expected as these projects continue to grow and we have more infrastructure. There's some major maintenance scheduled again this year, and Aqua will be completing this work, so flushing, CCTV cameraing, all normal processes to keep our system functioning properly. Some minor capital highlights for sewer. So again, these are also being completed by Aqua. So these are, the Laurie Lane sewage pumping station is getting a standby generator. Currently doesn't have one, so a good item to have in case of a power outage, of course. We want to make sure the sewage keeps getting collected and pumped to where it needs to be, rather in everyone's basement. And then this SCADA outpost panel at the Winchester Sewage Lagoon is being upgraded as well. So the major capital highlights I already kind of spoke to, but again, there's Winchester Lagoon, which is being upgraded. Council approved this in 2023. Its anticipated completion date is February 2025, and you can see the larger amount there, the $14 million total price tag. So there's $4.5 million in this budget, and in 2025, council can expect $3.4 million for the remainder. Just to backtrack to this, there is a mention in the report that council received today that has a mention of what we have FCM funding for. So we did receive FCM funding. We were lucky to receive FCM funding for the lagoon. So we did also get $1.2, $1.3 million worth of a grant to do some of this work. So these numbers may be different when you see them in 2025. They should be less because we will be receiving a grant portion. The other major capital highlight is the continuation of the Main Street sewage pumping station. So it was actually completed substantially completed in 2023. So they just installed the generator last week and did a generator set testing on this station. So it's finally completed, and that's why the little bit of the amount there, $404,306, is remaining, because they have to be paid out the remainder of their holdback. But other than that, that project is completed. So just to quickly recap again, so we're not asking council at this time to make any rate adjustments or anything like that. We already have the rates that we need to complete all the work in the budget, and you'll see when you look through the budget, the amount coming in from revenue is the amount going out in expenditures, minus some contributions to reserves. So the average person who uses about 11 cubic meters per month can expect about a 13% increase overall for the year to continue to supply these projects with the funding that they require.
So thank you very much for that key information report. There's lots of information there to digest, thank you, and or to dwell upon. It is not surprising, but it's those are quite the numbers. And it's not big buildings, it's not roofs, it's not roads, it's something that we just turn the taps on and flush the toilets and hope everything works, and that's the numbers to get that to work. And yeah, thank you for bringing that to our attention and reminding us once again about the costs incurred or the costs needed, the dollars needed for those projects. Any other questions, comments from members of council? Councilor Urick.
Thank you for the report, yes. And I just think that this is kind of growth we all knew was coming. And the demand is there, and this is unfortunately the price of doing business in today's dollars. But I will say that our illustrious premier found a different corner of Toronto to hide in today, I guess, and announced $625 million more for that the Housing Enabling Water Systems Fund. So hopefully in our far reaches of Eastern Ontario, someone is listening. And hey, we need to do this work because you're telling us. So help us out.
Yeah, not to piggyback on your thoughts, Councillor. It's shocking how much is required in a municipality that's as small as North Dundas, and there's over 400 of us out there, and the dollars that Toronto thinks are great numbers. Whenever you look at the millions upon millions of dollars required in North Dundas, and in SDG, there's 5 more suffering similar hurdles or facing similar challenges, and yeah, I really do wish that people express the message that there's more to Ontario than just traveling from the GTA to Kingston, and because that's a stark reality that whenever our grant submissions or our requests for funding aren't seen in the same fashion as they're seen in the city of Toronto and other large urban centers that way. Anyway, that's frustrating. If there's nothing else, thank you very much. And we'll move on to Mr. DeHaan.
It's okay. It's all good.
Mr. DeHaan, the strategic plan, the update.
Yes, thank you, and I'll keep this relatively brief. One of the things that after starting here, it had been brought to my attention was that there was still some cleanup that was needed on the strategic plan exercise and update that council had started in June of last year, and really. When I first heard it, I was a little nervous because you think, oh shoot, have we been working on these things? And then when we actually got into the what was contained within that report and some of those objectives that council had identified back then, and looking through it, I was actually feeling, if not satisfied, actually quite excited, because I think as you look through. As council looks through what was identified in that preliminary exercise as objectives, I think it's pretty clear that council and staff have been very focused on those things, and it's going to be great to report at the next time we have to report on how we're doing within our strategic plan, because there's going to be lots of information that I'll be able to provide council. So the purpose of why I'm here in front of council today is I just want to make sure that I'm not missing anything. I put this. I know council had in, I want to say it was October of last year. Again, I'm just recall I started setting foot in here late November, so it was either it was August of last year where council identified in council here the priorities, the objectives that are contained within this key information report are objectives that I had looking through the notes and some of the summaries and information I received from the CAO, was able to just, I guess, add them within the priorities that council has approved. And I'm hoping and trusting that what I've outlined here conforms with what was discussed during the June 2023 session that council and key staff held. And with that, and just that confirmation, what I'll do is I'll go back and prepare, we'll call it like a document that'll be good for public consumption and that we can continue to reference as we move through this term of council.
Thank you for that update. Questions, comments, thoughts? Councillor Urick.
I think just to this report and the information before us, we obviously all took part in it. We all set out these goals, and I would say that we are doing well in hitting on them thus far.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to see them out, and I'm hopeful they go out to the public so they can digest them as well and see that, you know, the goals that we set forth are the goals that we're aiming for. So thank you, Ben.
If there's nothing else, thank you, Mr. Dahan.
Thank you.
And the last key information report is the Development Services. We have Mr. Pohl and Preston Stronach. Welcome.
I believe this is Preston's first visit here. I believe this is Preston's first visit here, so I'll introduce Preston as our new chief building official, and he's successfully passed all the exams required for the position and challenged them all, didn't take any courses, which is quite a success to be able to take that on in short notice and week after week of 3-hour exams. That's a difficult task. So we're quite proud of him that he's finished that, and I'll let him take the reins now for his presentation.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for that. Okay, so good afternoon, Council. This is the 2023 annual report for the expenses that we're required to report on in accordance with the Ontario Building Code. And that particular section will say this is meant to reflect the direct and indirect costs of delivering services related to the administration and enforcement of the Act. So it's all encompassing of the Act. We can see here for building permits, fines, education, subcontractors' fees, we had a total revenue of $290,000, just over. And then our expenditures there, which include direct costs, that's salaries, benefits, overhead, training, things like that to keep us up to date. Indirect costs, that includes, you know, if anybody else is involved in the administration of that code throughout the municipality, a portion of their salaries are included. And then indirect expenses, those include things like internet, hydro, just the general everyday stuff. We take a portion of that. So our total expenditures just over 383,500. 383,500. So what we end up with is we do a kind of a balance there, amount of expenditures covered by taxpayers, 93,000. I did want to stress just a little bit about this. We haven't broken it down, and this is something we're going to look at this year, is kind of parsing that number out, because on the face of it, it looks like we're not really covering our costs, but I would stress that actually there's quite a bit here outside of the administration and the enforcement of the Act that's not reflected here. So we're kind of just taking a bulk number. So I would anticipate that that 93,000 actually is pretty reasonable for the services outside of the Act that the municipality is getting from the building department. This year I'm going to have a look at that, and then next year's annual report will kind of reflect that a little bit better. Okay, so then there's some comments and recommendations. So the first item here is that we're anticipating a probable reduction in revenue for 2024. This is reflective in the fact that we actually collect a lot of our building permit fees come from residential projects. They're the ones that take up the bulk of the work. We are already seeing a drop in residential construction, and that's kind of reflective of just the cost of actually doing the work and getting the loans and things like that. So there's outside factors that are affecting that. But with that said, we have quite low fees for commercial and industrial, and that's actually incentivizing that development here. So we are seeing more and more commercial coming on board, and we're anticipating probably a bit of a balance. We'll see a bit of a dip, I think, but it should balance out. And we're doing a lot of work in-house to try and get these rezonings and severances and get these people on board, so that should help. The second thing there, the automatic yearly fee increase. So every year we kind of raise our fees automatically to match CPI. This year, I believe it was 2.8%, so that came into effect March 1st. Just as a rough idea, if your permit was $1.31, it's now $1.33 per square foot, that kind of thing. Number 3, so building department services. So we're kind of undergoing a review, looking for possible efficiencies. Just looking at how we deliver our services, the time that we deliver our inspections, turnaround times for permits, trying to find ways to kind of get things moving through the system and reduce those barriers and get people moving. Along with that, we're also exploring different types of services that we offer. One of them that you'll see come through a key information report probably next meeting is e-permitting. That's something we're exploring and trying to get that online. Other things too, things like express permits. If you have small stuff, there's no reason why we can't process that quickly and get that out the door. Sheds, garages, small additions, things like that, renovation work. And then we're also still exploring the pre-approved accessory structures permits, kind of like a all-in-one package. You come to the counter, you leave with a permit. So we talked about that. The other thing is, it's probably something new. I don't know that this has happened too much in this municipality, but looking at possibly bringing in revenue for technical seminars. The building department in the administration of the code is meant to be kind of the knowledge base. They're the experts in the code, so there's no reason why we can't also put on technical seminars for builders and homeowners or even other building officials and charge them a small fee, and we deliver that education service to them. I know that's stuff that's I think would be very helpful and help, especially with a lot of changes coming through the code. So we could do things, if there's accessibility upgrades or improvements, those are, I think, would be very beneficial seminars to hold. And also, like I said, also to changes to the building code. We are, just so you're aware, we are expecting about 2,000 changes to the Ontario Building Code this year, coming through in April. It's the biggest overhaul since the codes ever were created, so 1975, I believe. So it's going to be a big change, and there's going to be a lot of learning, but I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to develop that expertise as well. Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you for the report, gentlemen. And I think back to, I think it was last year, we were discussing the percentage that needs to be recovered through building permit fees, so it's not burdensome on the taxpayer. And are we at what the provincial or the building code or the provincial, is there a provincial standard that we're at or not at? And what would that number be?
No, there's no standard. The standard really is 100% cost recovery, but with the caveat that it's for the portion of the services related to the administration and enforcement of the act only. So we haven't really, and I haven't really seen a good breakdown of that, where we parse that out, say, okay, that's we're reviewing applications, we're doing the plans review, we're doing the inspections, we're closing the permit, and then a bit of the administration side of that. But if we're communicating with people to help them out, that's not actually a cost that's supposed to be recoverable. I think in the past, council's direction was, I think at one point it was 50%, and then I think it's 80% now, or
Yeah, 150, 70, now 80.
yeah. So I would say this is much better than last year for sure. I think the permit fees are actually at a pretty good, from what I've seen, the analysis I've done, it's at a pretty good rate. And like I said, this 93,000 includes that extra service that we're providing that's kind of outside of the act. I would expect we're pretty close to actual cost recovery in terms of administration of the act itself.
Good to hear. Questions, comments about the report from anyone? Anything further, Calvin?
No, just that we're working on different ideas to bring forward to council. He's pointed out we're also looking at shed design, garage design, where you'd be able to come and pick a design for your shed, and we give you the permit on the site, and everything's ready to go. When you pick the color and you pick the garage door that you want, or windows in it or not, that kind of thing. And to have the foundation designed with that, because we have engineered plans already approved that we can use, and we want to promote that in the municipality to tell people, hey, you can come get a permit for a garage tomorrow, and you just pick the color. And here's the building plans. Go to your builder or yourself and start building. So to offer that service, I think would be a real benefit to the municipality and the residents. Those interested in that kind of thing, or a shed design too would be another one. Just to simplify it, and you walk out with a permit.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that coming to be, and And as I've often said to many people, staff members and councilors, that the leading the way is important, and someone needs to set the way it ought to be, and it shouldn't be a challenge to build a shed or to satisfy the need for a garage. It shouldn't. The biggest challenge shouldn't be getting a permit. The biggest challenge should not be that. And I'm looking forward to the day where it's seen that the permit's the easy part, and the understanding of how the permit process works. And I'm looking forward to that. So there's nothing else. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So at this point, I'm going to move into the consent agenda. And before I get too deep into that, is there anything that staff would like to bring up from the reports? And are there any reports in the consent agenda that council members like to pull and discuss? I do believe there's two. I have one, I believe, from Deputy Mayor. Deputy Mayor, the floor is yours.
It was for the resolution to support the Blue Box. Section 10. Oh, Township of Perry. Yes, that one?
So that's been pulled.
Okay.
We'll talk about that in section 11.
Okay.
Okay, so we have two that are going to be discussed in section 11 then? Okay. Looking for the page. Moved by Councillor Annable, second by Councillor Urick, that all resolutions listed under the consent agenda be approved as recommended, and further that all items listed under the consent agenda be received and filed for information purposes. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Boards and committees, county council, leave that to the deputy mayor,
Which one, sorry?
county council.
Oh, County Council. Let me see. There wasn't anything that, sorry, no, it's on. It's on, it's on. I'll put it closer, okay. Yes, we had our meeting on Monday. What sticks out here is in the roads, the counties will be doing a lot of microsurfacing. Central line markings will be done also in our township. There was a lot of talk about the solar eclipse on April the 8th. They're really getting organized because they're expecting a lot of traffic, probably from Ottawa, because especially at Upper Canada Village and Chrysler Park area, they expect a huge influx of people who will come, which might cause traffic congestion. They have to have paramedics there in case something happens. And so they're getting organized for that event, and hopefully it will not be a rainy day because it's a lot of planning. And also for those people, I hear that Kingston is expecting 500,000 people for the eclipse coming from, I don't know, all over the place, I guess. Can't think of anything else, Mr. Mayor. Do you have anything else on that?
No, I think that's fine, thanks.
Okay.
Canada Day, there's nothing. Art in the Waterfront, Councillor Annable.
There was a meeting 2 weeks ago. They've set their budget for the couple of days. They've had 39 people want to enter the show, and they're working on their advertising, and they were debating as to whether to do a mail out or not, and I haven't heard any return from that. But they see, like I've said before, it's like an oiled machine. They all do the same thing every year, and it's just chug.
Perfect. The Historical Society,
As far to my knowledge, there has not been a meeting.
thank you. The Carnival, any updates, Councillor? Dairy Fest, Deputy Mayor.
No, there's still no update, so I'm going to have to email Marcia and ask her whenever we'll finally get our first meeting.
Okay. Downtown Winchester.
Again, we haven't had a meeting for 3 weeks or so, so there's nothing new to report there. There's a meeting on April the 10th here in this room at 7 o'clock.
Thank you. And the Morwood RA, Councillor Lennox, not able to be with us today. So the motions and notices of motions, as I mentioned earlier, we're at that section 11. And so Deputy Mayor Bergeron, the blue box regulations.
Okay, the reason I brought this up is the Township of Perry has formed a resolution because the province, when it decided to move the blue box to producer paid, they had many restrictions, meaning that they're only required to pick up blue boxes at residential areas, and they've left out commercial businesses, daycare centers, and so there's a whole section of the population or businesses that will not be offered blue box pickup. And it will be up to them to do that privately, which is going to come at a cost. And I've already been approached by one business owner, for instance, who has an apartment upstairs and says, okay, so the person upstairs, they'll pick up their blue box, but they won't pick up mine. So guess where mine is going to end up? You know, in the landfill site, because he doesn't want to have to pay privately. And so this motion is to approach the province and say, listen, you started this blue box program, you should be picking up everybody's blue box, no exceptions.
I just wonder if I could look at Ms. Ward and just since we have some people here to express the challenges that our businesses are going to face.
Yeah, so thank you, Mayor. So this is a challenge that's not unique to North Dundas. I think it's on. Is it on? Yeah, okay. So with the changes to the provincial blue box plan, basically what's happening is the province is moving collection away from municipalities, which is what we currently service. So we collect pretty much everybody in the township of North Dundas, except for a few large commercial businesses like Foodland, for example. They manage their own cardboard. So what's happening is because the province defines commercial waste as not something that is their responsibility, they have only assumed residential waste. So that is why it's defined that way. Municipalities under the Municipal Act are actually only responsible for residential, but it is a decision of council to offer a higher service level. So when the province took on that program, they only offered the base. So what the challenge is going to be is some of our businesses that we service now in our downtown cores do not have access to areas to put collection dumpsters, I'll say. So not only would they struggle, we're going to continue to pick up garbage there, but they would struggle to find a place to put a dumpster that would take cardboard and other recyclables. So there has been a letter that has been sent on behalf of the township to the businesses to inform them of this change that's coming, and then also provide some information on some of the carriers or providers that offer that service, as well as encourage them to work together to try and find a solution that perhaps we could assist them with. I know the mayor and I have talked about perhaps finding a collection location in downtown Winchester and Chesterville where we could supply perhaps a parking space or something like that. and have a collection dumpster there for businesses to put their recycling when they need to, and then they would pay for the removal of that. But those are the options we're currently looking at as a township to continue to help businesses through this process. But unfortunately, my hands are pretty much tied with this new legislation, and so it's encouraging to see that it's being recognized by other municipalities. It's going to be a very large operational challenge.
Thank you for that information. So, before I get through reading the resolution, the challenges are enormous, as you describe it, and as I listen to the deputy mayor and the comments I've received and the education we receive when we go off on conferences. If we were to have a bin and a parking spot, where does that go? And I think we need to be aware that we won't have a recycling facility in North Dundas with this EPR. That'll cease. That aspect of where, well, maybe the township could pick it up and then move it. We won't have that capability. It's outside of what we're allowed to do, and it's in the province's hands. So I think of the idea of a bin, then to the people, the business people that use the bin, do they chip in and pay for the bin, and all we do is provide the parking spot? So, but once we get involved in something that's outside of our purview, then we're part of that, and we're not meant to be part of that. And the province has decided that they know better on how to manage local recycling. It is going to be a challenge, and I do hear that in some larger centers it's running well, but I'm not sure if we're hearing all of the stories that take place in those other areas. So I look forward to this resolution not falling on deaf ears. I hope the province understands that they need to offer different levels of support if we have different levels of need in smaller centers. But it's unfortunate that we've gone so far, and I think of the amount of garbage that we put out as individual households, how we've trimmed that back from the unlimited down to 2 bags, or sometimes only 1 bag, sometimes only a kitchen catcher, because we're making good use of the recycling. We understand, we've been educated as a township on the best way to do that with our facility. Then I think that's all going out the window. And to the councillors, to the deputy mayor's thought, it's going to affect our capacity at the landfill, as people will become disgruntled, not understand, have no recourse, have no one to speak to, unless they have a direct line to the province, I guess, because it's ridiculous what they expect out of this. So, thank you, Danielle. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, seconded by Councillor Uhrig, that the Council of the Township of North Dundas joins the Municipality of Chatham-Kent in support of Resolution 2024-52 from the Township of Perry, requesting the province to amend Blue Box regulation from ineligible sources, and further that this resolution be forwarded to the Premier of Ontario, the Minister of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, MP Eric Duncan, MPP Nolan Quinn, and to the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. And the other motion is from Councillor Uhrig. He'd like that brought forward.
Yeah, I just think this is further advocacy that we can do on, municipal part, because it's, again, much like the conversation we've already had in this meeting when we were looking over the draft 1 of the water sewer budget. We're one, small fish in a big pond, and we're dealing with the trickle down of the wants and the desires of a provincial and a federal government in this case as well, that we have to increase our housing stock. And while I don't disagree with that, we can't shoulder it alone, and we can't do it on the backs of our taxpayers. And we've got this resolution here from the city of Quinte West that's facing major projects of its own, and it's a larger center than we are. But if larger centers can't do it, then how are a small municipalities going to do it as well? And I guess it it piggybacks in a sense to the earlier resolution when it comes to the Blue Box program. And it's just, I wonder what sort of data our province is working with when they say that, you know, these small municipalities can handle this type of stuff without any level of support or direction, really, in some cases. So I feel it incumbent of us to, you know, support something of this nature, given, you know, the substantial funding shortfalls that we're all facing. And, you know, when they kick a little bit more into the kitty, but then all, you know, 400 of us have to fight for the scraps at the table, it's a daunting task.
Okay, thank you. Moved by Councillor Urick, seconded by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, that the Council of the Township of North Dundas supports resolution number 24-167 from the City of Quinte West requesting the federal government to reevaluate their lack of funding for municipalities with a population less than 50,000 in rural Ontario and to make available funding for infrastructure programs, and further that the provincial government invest more than the currently allocated $200 million into their Housing Enabling Water Systems Fund, and further that this resolution be circulated to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, the Federal Minister for Housing, MP Eric Duncan, Premier Doug Ford, the Provincial Minister of Infrastructure, the Provincial Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, MPP Nolan Quinn, and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none. Carried. So I'm going to move into council comments and concerns. I'm going to take this opportunity to welcome Natalie Charette, who is with us, has decided to join North Dundas to be the Deputy Clerk / Communications Coordinator. And I do appreciate Natalie's commitment to the Township of North Dundas. And I'm sure she's going to enjoy being part of the team here in North Dundas. I also need to recognize I need my glasses. I also need to recognize the efforts of our fire department, our fire service, the North Dundas Fire Service, and to take this opportunity to congratulate and thank our firefighters for their commitment to our municipality, their neighbors, and themselves. Every firefighter who has trained and tested for their NFPA 1001 Level 1 and Level 2, commonly referred to as Firefighter 1 and 2, they have successfully achieved their goal. And as some of us may remember, it was quite a daunting task at first. Everyone was concerned that this is going to be the end to volunteer fire service in North Dundas. The ambitious training schedule was laid out and success was had. And I want to thank the instructors that have made sure that this has happened, and I want to certainly want to thank the firefighters for taking up the challenge, to seeing that there is a benefit to this, and the whole intent in my mind was to make sure that all our firefighters in North Dundas are able to fight fires in a safe fashion, are able to go home at the end of the event to their families, and to ensure that the job that they do is done in the best of fashions with the best of training. I want to thank Chief Raystrick for making sure that this challenge was communicated and the need for this challenge to be accepted and overcome. I thank Chief Raystrick for making sure that took place. Many kudos to you, Chief. This is a great thing, and to have every firefighter in North Dundas be successful in this training when it was seen that it was not going to happen. And it certainly is a change from the early concerns about this ambitious training schedule. And my compliments and thanks to all the firefighters in North Dundas. I also have the privilege of speaking to the achievements of Preston. And Preston Stronach has recently passed the following building code qualification exams from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. And as Calvin has alluded, these challenges to the exams were done in-house, essentially. The studying was done locally, and Preston has passed the building services, the detection, lighting, and power, the large buildings, plumbing for all buildings, and plumbing for house. It is an enormous achievement, Preston, and my thanks to you, and thanks from all members of council, and especially, I do believe the residents of the Township of North Dundas will truly appreciate your efforts to achieve those qualifications. And also, I want to thank Jason Forget, who's also at the back of the room, and has recently passed the following building code qualification exam for plumbing all buildings. So our building department, our permit department is certainly well versed in some of the things that they need to do, and most all of the things they need to do to ensure that the service provided to builders, developers, and residents in North Dundas are well looked after. And so to Preston and Jason's success, thank you for your commitment to our community. It's well appreciated. If there's nothing else, Madam Clerk, I think I'm going to move right to the ratification. Moved by Councillor Uhrig, second by Councillor Annable, that bylaw number 2024-25 to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed this 21st day of March 2024. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. And before we close and adjourn, I want to thank those that attended today, and I've already received commitments that they will be at the next meeting, so I look forward to that. And I know you like the cookies, so we'll keep that over here and make sure that continues. Moved by Councillor Annable, seconded by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, that council adjourn at 3:06 p.m. to the call of the chair. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for your attention and patience as we move through today's council meeting.